Hi, this is Chris Amborn with MSPS. This is a short instructional video on how to get the AR Sandbox set up for whatever you're doing with it. So there's some main parts. You got to make sure that you have them all or it's not going to work. The leg sections, there's two sets or two sides of the legs, and they're connected by these 2x6s on each side, which are held in by these four hex head bolts. When you get it, they may or may not be attached. If it's coming to you in a truck, you can sure leave those on. If it's in a car, you take those bolts out, put them back in, create the base first, set the box on top of it. It won't have sand in it, of course, but the box lifts up by some straps that are pinched underneath here right now, but you'll see them. They're like canvas or webbing straps that you can use to carry it around, two people. In general, transporting it and setting it up, if you don't have two people, it's going to be probably a 45-minute job. So try to find somebody to help you out. Third pieces are this metal ladder, which holds the projector rack in place, and the computer that slides down into this bracket on the side of the box. Make sure that the bracket is on the same side as these two holes. You see where the black metal has been rubbing on the box. Make sure that the box is flipped around this direction so that the rack lines up with those holes. There's none of that on this other side. So once that's done, once you have the box set up on top of it, you can roll it into your space or carry it or however you want. It's pretty wide, and it's only going to fit through like maybe a 36-inch door or like a auditorium door. Otherwise, you're going to have to carry it, turn it sideways, and then get it in your space. There are casters on all four legs, but they're not off-road capable, so it'll roll okay on carpet with maybe a half a load of sand, but if it's full, you're not going to be able to move it very far, and it's not going to be very good for the legs. So try to carry the sand, which is the other piece, into the space. You can throw a couple of the buckets inside of here and roll them in. I'd recommend getting like a hand truck or a dolly to help you out. Some of the other pieces are the actual computer. The projector itself is housed in this black box, which should be in a cardboard box like this, along with the monitor, and then the computer, which comes in this laptop bag. So those are the main pieces. You got to have all of those, otherwise you're not going to get very far with this thing. So once you got it in your space, make sure you get power to it with extension cord of some sort. We're going to take the ladder rack, and it doesn't matter, you can flip it either way. You take the two long ends, the two long legs are going to slide into the top of the rack that's attached to the box. So once those are in there, it'll slide all the way down to the bottom, but you actually are going to have to end up with this first rung, the holes in this first rung lining up with those two holes that I mentioned earlier on the box. So you can let it all the way down for now if you would like to put the projector rack on the top at a more manageable height. Right now, if you leave it, it might be 7 feet up in the air, and it makes it a little bit harder to put it up there. Along with everything should be this little bucket of bolts, a couple of sockets in there. Hopefully the sockets made along with the bolts. We've had a couple of things go missing so far. But you're going to want to have a couple of these shorter ones with a washer on them ready to go. So then when you get the rack on top of the ladder, when you slide it up, you can punch these through the rack into these holes here. And that's going to set the height of the rack, which is important because the projector has to be at the right ratio for the sand to display correctly. So I'm going to lift this up on here best I can with one hand, and slide this up and just stick a bolt in there hand tight for now. So again, this is the rack that holds the projector and the computer. It's going to go on top of the ladder. Swing all the cables out of the way. And it should slide right down to this rung right here. That's the right height for that. I'll do my best to stick this bolt in here one-handed. We'll see. Foot under there. No, it's not going to work. Doesn't really matter. You're going to get this up and you're going to get a bolt in here, or 2 bolts. Just hand tighten is fine. Just make sure you get plenty of threads in there. All right, so your ladder's up, rack's on, everything's lined up. You got your bolts inside. We're using pretend. And then we're going to take the projector here. The logo side is going to face, well, there's no real good way to say it. I guess it's face to the left side of the ladder. If you're close to the ladder, the logo side's going to be over here. Easier way to remember it is that these cords are zip tied to this side of the rack, and the cords pop out of the side of this box right here, so you want to make those match up. And it's just going to sit in the rack in between these 2 strips of wood. So we'll lift this up here, set it down in the rack. You notice that it slides back and forth a little bit. That's fine. We'll adjust it once we get the projector turned on, and you can move it one way or the other just a little bit to tweak the projector so that it fits squarely on top of the stand. Alright, that's up there. Now we're going to grab the computer out of the bag. This is the front. The power button's that trapezoid there with the power icon on it. The back side has all of the plug-ins. Make sure that you get the power button towards the top. So I'm going to turn it over in my hand here. That's up. We're just going to set that in this space right here. There we go. And okay. So now it's sitting in there. Power button, if you look underneath. Alright, so now we just have to plug everything in. Everything should be labeled fairly well, hopefully. Some of them will say monitor, some will say PC, PC, PC. Anything with tape on it on the back side here gets plugged in. And then going back up to the computer here and the projector, there's 3 plugs here and 3 plugs there, so that's pretty basic. Just plug all 3 of those in. There's one cable that'll be extra here. It's this one here. It's I think that's a mini USB, and then a regular USB port here. This is for charging the wireless keyboard. I'll talk again about that in the next video. But this one, I suppose if it's got power, you could charge your phone or whatever from that. The power strip on top here, just make sure that's on. So this is on, this is off. The light will come on once it's plugged in. But once everything's plugged in, pay attention to whether it's a USB or an HDMI. This USB goes in this, there's a right angle adapter here because there wasn't enough space to get in there. So HDMI is here, plug those in. Power cord goes right next to the USB. And I'll finish this up in the next video.